Okay guys, so this is going to be completing the square example problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve the following equations by completing the square. And completing the square is super important for when we start trying to analyze parabolas and their vertex as well as circles. Okay, so the next couple lessons we're going to be going through and using completing the square a lot. Okay, so when we complete the square, what we do is we put a plus C in there and we kick the lone number out. Okay? Now, to find C, you're going to do B over 2 quantity squared. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. So if I put a 49 in, I have to take a 49 out. Okay, so this becomes P squared plus 14P plus 49. 39 plus 49. 49 comes out to be 88. Okay, so minus 88 is equal to 0. Now, the next step is we have to factor this down. Okay, so when we factor this down, we square root the first term. So we get P, keep the sign in the middle, plus square root of 49 is 7. And then now we can solve this equation. Okay, so we're going to add the 88 over to the other side. To get rid of the squared, we square root both sides. And we're not going to forget that we need plus or minus when we take an even root. Okay, and then we're going to subtract the 7. So P is equal to negative 7 plus or minus square root of 88. Now, if you want to factor this square root down, it's divisible by 4. Let's see, 28 by 4 is 22. So this becomes 2 squared to 22. If you want to factor that down. Okay. Next one, a squared plus 14a minus 51. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to group the a squared, the 14a, we're going to put a plus c, and we're going to kick that negative 51 out. So, to find c, we're going to do b over 2 squared. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. If I put a 49 in, I have to take a 49 out. Okay, so this is a squared plus 14a plus 49 is minus 100 is equal to 0. And we're going to factor just like we did the previous example. Square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, and square root the last term. And we're going to go ahead and add that 100 over. Okay, now to solve the square root, to get rid of the squared, we're going to square root both sides. So when we square root both sides, we get a plus 7 is equal to plus or minus 10. Square root of 100 is 10. Okay, don't forget your plus or minus. So we get a is equal to negative 7 plus or minus 10. So we get a is equal to negative 7 plus 10 is 3, and then a is equal to negative 17. Okay, so that one's easy enough to work out. Next example, so x squared plus 6x plus 8. We're going to group the first two terms together, put our plus c in there. We're going to kick out the 8. B over 2 squared, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So if I put a 9 in, I have to take a 9 out. So this becomes x. Keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term. So x plus 3 quantity squared. 8 minus 9 is negative 1. Now, when we go to solve this, we're going to add the 1 to the other side. Okay, to get rid of the square, we square root both sides. And so we get x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 1. Okay, so x is equal to negative 2, and x is equal to negative 4. Next one, x squared plus 14x minus 15. So we're going to put our plus c in, and we're going to kick the negative 15 out. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. If I put a 49 in, I have to take a 49 out. So square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term. 15 plus 49 is 64. So I'm going to move it over to the other side. To get rid of a squared, we square root. Square root of 64 is plus or minus 8. So we get x is equal to a negative 7 plus or minus 8. So x comes out to be 1, and x comes out to be negative 15. That's it. Okay. Next one. So we're going to do r squared minus 4r. We're going to put our plus c in. Minus 91. Let's go ahead and, okay. So there's two ways we can actually do this. I guess on these, let's go ahead and add our 91 to the other side. So there's two different ways we're going to do these, and both ways work equally well. Okay. So we're going to complete the square. So negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Now, if I move all my numbers to the other side, whatever I do to this side, I have to do to this side. Okay? So, I'm going to square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term, and 98 plus 4 is 102. Okay? To get rid of square, we square root both sides, so r minus 2 is equal to plus or minus square root of 102. And so r is equal to 2 plus or minus square root of 102. And let me see if 102 is divided by 4, divisible by 4. No. I don't think it's divisible by 9. Nope. I think that's it. So we'll just leave it like that. Okay, next one. K squared minus 4k plus 1 is equal to a negative 5. So I'm going to group the first two terms together, and I'm going to put my plus c, and I'm going to move this negative 1 to the other side, so we get negative 6. Okay? Now, so we're going to do b over 2 quantity squared. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. So if I put 4 on this side, I have to put 4 in on this side. So this becomes k minus, square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term, is equal to a negative 2. Okay, so anytime you get a squared equal to a negative number, you're going to have imaginary roots. So keep that in mind. We know how to deal with that now. So square root so we're going to square root this. So we get plus or minus I square root of 2. And so k comes out to be 2 plus or minus I square root of 2. Okay, the next one. We don't have another term over here to add over, so we're just going to deal with it over here. So, v squared minus 6v plus c is equal to a negative 91. So we're going to do b over 2 squared. So negative 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3. A negative 3 squared is 9. If I put a 9 in on this side, I have to put 9 in on this side. Okay? So I'm going to factor this down. Square root the first term is v. Keep the sign in the middle. Square root the last term. Negative 91 plus 9 is negative 82. Okay, so we'll have imaginary roots on this one also. So we're going to square root both sides. Okay, and then we're going to add the 3. Okay, 82 is 82 divisible by 4. Nope. So we're going to leave it like that. Okay, the next one. Now, you can decide what you want to do on this. You at least have to move the 20k to the left side. Okay, so 5k squared plus 20k is equal to 60. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. So, in order to complete the square, your coefficient of your x squared term or your k squared term, in this case, it has to be 1. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out the 5. When I factor out the 5, this becomes 4k. I put my plus c, and that's equal to 60. Okay? Now, I'm going to complete the square. b over 2 squared, 4 over 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Now, this is where it's different. I'm actually putting in 20 on this side. So if I've put 20 in on this side, I have to put 20 in on that side. Okay, so that's what's going to mess you up, and I have quite a few examples where you have a number other than 1 in front to do. Okay, so this becomes 5 times k plus 2 quantity squared, square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term, is equal to 80. 80 divided by 5 is 16, I believe. Yeah, 16. Okay. Now, to get rid of a squared, we square root both sides, so we get k plus 2 is equal to plus or minus 4. And so k comes out to be negative 2 plus or minus 4. So k is equal to 2, and k is equal to a negative 6. Okay, the next one. So we get 8x squared plus 16x is equal to 42. So we're going to factor out the 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2. I'm going to put my plus c, and I'm going to leave my 42 on that side. Okay, when I complete the square, we do b over 2 squared. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. So if I put 8 in on this side, I have to put 8 in on that side. Okay? So this is 8 times x plus 1 quantity squared is equal to 42 plus 8 is 50. Now if I'm going to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Okay? And 50 divided by 8, that's going to simplify to 25. They're both divisible by 2. So 25 and 4. To get rid of a squared, we're going to square root both sides. When I square root a fraction, square root of 25 is 5, square root of 4 is 2. So this is 5 halves. So x is equal to a negative 1 plus or minus 5 halves. Okay, this is easy enough to do out. So this is we can do a common denominator if we want to, negative 2 over 2. So negative 2 plus 5 is 3 halves, and this is going to be negative 7 halves. Okay, last page. Okay, good, we have a couple examples like that, good. Okay, okay, so on this one, let's move the 8a to the other side. Okay, so the coefficient is not 1, so we have to factor it out. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we get that. So we got to do our c. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. If you haven't noticed, your a is always positive. Okay, so make sure you always have a positive a. Your c, that's what I meant to say. Your c is always positive. Always, always, always. 4 times 2 is 8. So if I put 8 in on this side, I have to put 8 in on this side. So we get 2 times a minus 2 quantity squared is equal to negative 6 plus 8 is 2. Okay, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now, to get rid of the square root, to get rid of the square, we square root both sides. So we get a is equal to 2 plus or minus 1. So a is equal to 3, and a is equal to 1. Okay, next one. So this one looks different because everything is on the left side. So we'll work this one a little bit differently. So same strategy. We're going to factor out the 4. Okay, and we get n, and then we're going to put our plus c, and we're going to just kick out that 36 like that. Okay, we're not going to move it to the other side. I want to show you how to do this way. Okay, so when we complete the square, b over 2 is 1/2. 1/2 squared becomes 1/4. Okay, we're not going to freak out about fractions because it happens. 1/4 times 4 is 1. So if I put in a 1 on this side of the equation, I have to take away 1 on this side. Okay, so you deal with it that way if they're both on, if everything's on one side of the equation. Okay, it still would have worked the same way. You still would have got the same exact answer. Okay, so 4 times square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root of 1/4 is 1/2. Minus 35 is equal, plus 35 is equal to 0. Now, we're going to solve this equation. We're going to move the 35 over and then divide by 4. So it becomes a negative 35/4. To get rid of squared, we're going to square root both sides. So we get an I plus or minus I. Square root of 35 doesn't break down. Square root of 4 is 2. So this becomes -1 plus or minus I square root of 35 all over 2. Okay? Negative, or you could write it -1/2 plus or minus I square root of 35 over 2. Same thing. Okay, last example problem. So what I would do on this is I would move this number over to the other side. So we get 10p squared plus 4p is equal to 9 minus 77 is negative 68. Okay, so your coefficient of the p squared term has to be 1. So we get p squared plus 4 divided by 10 is 2/5 plus c is equal to negative 68. Let's make sure that's right. 4 tenths. 2/5, yeah. Okay. Now, when we do our b over 2 squared, so 2/5 divided by 2 is 1/5. 1/5 squared is 1/25. Okay. And 1/25 times 10 okay, that comes out to be 2/5. Okay, so if I put 2/5 on this side, I have to put 2/5 on this side. So, factor this stuff down, square root the first term, keep the sign in the middle, square root the last term, square root of 1 over 25 is 1/5. We can do around the world, negative 68 times 5 plus 2 is a negative 338 over 5. Okay, now we're going to isolate our squared. We're going to divide both sides by 10. So negative 338 over 10, square root. Now, I'm taking a square root of negative, so I'm going to have an I. This should have been 50. I'm not working very well this morning, guys. Sorry. Should have squared over 50 like that. And then we're just going to move this to the other side. So p is equal to a negative 1/5 plus or minus I square roots of 338 over 50. Let me just double check my work real quick. This is my first video of the day, so bear with me. 2/5 divided by 2 is 1/5. 1/5 squared, 1/25. 1/25. Add the 2/5 divided by 10. Yeah, so it looks good to me. And hopefully I didn't make any mistakes in this video, but you know, I'm only human. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and hopefully this helped you with the completing the square. Thanks.